council, therefore, that members of the public following the meeting via the live stream will be able to see each of us on the screen individually. Please announce yourself by name when speaking, and if you want to refer to anything in the officer report or appendices, can you please first clearly state the relevant page number and paragraph number. Thank you all. Good afternoon and welcome to Rochford District Council's remote licensing and appeals subcommittee meeting, and welcome to anyone watching this live via stream. My name is Councillor Carol Weston and I am the chairman of the licensing and appeals subcommittee. The other members are, and if the members would like to introduce themselves, please.
Councillor Laureen Shaw.
Councillor Phil Shaw.
And the committee's legal advisor, and can you introduce yourself please, Chris?
Yeah, my name is Chris Irwin, solicitor here at Rochford Council.
Thank you. The committee will follow the procedure set out in the peculiar note at item 3 on the agenda. The purpose of the meeting today is to consider an application for a premises licence made by Red Door. Please, could the applicant introduce himself? Mr. Leo Melossi, you would like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi there, Leo Melossi, yeah, from the Red Door.
Thank you. Do you wish to call any witnesses at all?
Absolutely not.
Thank you very much. Please, could the council's licensing officer introduce themselves?
Good afternoon, I'm Stephen Greener. I'm the Principal Licensing Officer for Rochford District Council.
And Mr. Greener, can you also let us know if there's any interested parties?
Also as well on the call is Caris Brooke, who is the licensing officer that works with myself. I'm not aware of any other interested parties, but there is representation from someone on this video call.
And so you don't have, do you have any witnesses you wish to call at all?
No, it's not for me to call any witnesses. There is no responsible authorities that is making representation.
Okay, thank you. And have all the parties received the agenda and report for today's hearing? Yes.
Yes, we have.
Okay. Okay, so please can all parties be reminded that they each have 15 minutes to present their case. Mr. Greener, can you summarise the application, please?
Sorry, Chair.
Sorry.
We just need the other interested party to introduce themselves.
Is that Councillor Mike Wilkinson?
Yes.
Sorry, Councillor Mike Wilkinson, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, apologies. Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Wilkinson. I am one of the ward councillors for the ward in which the Red Door is situated.
And will you be speaking on this?
I'll be requesting a chance to speak, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Sorry, back to you, Mr. Greener, please.
Good afternoon. I'll do a quick summary of the report if that is okay. This report introduces an application for the grant of a premises licence made under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003. The application must be determined within 5 working days of the conclusion of the hearing in accordance with paragraph 26 of the Licensing Act 2003 Hearings Regulations 2005. The application was submitted to the licensing authority by Molossi Leisure Limited on the 12th of May 2020 and refers to the premises known as the Red Door 131 High Street, Rayleigh, Essex. Appendix A consists of the application form which has been circulated. Appendix B is also a map locating the site of the premises. The application is for the following licensable activities within the times and dates as outlined within the report. Sale of alcohol, Monday to Sunday from 8 in the morning until 2 the following morning. Live music, Monday to Sunday, 8 in the morning until 2:30 the following morning. Recorded music, Monday to Sunday, 8 AM to 2:30 the following morning. Performance of dance, Monday to Sunday, 8 AM to 2:30 the following morning. And late night refreshment, Monday to Sunday from 11 PM till 2 in the morning. The hours open to the public will be Monday to Sunday from 8 in the morning until 2:30. In relation to representation, responsible authorities, the application has been assessed by an environmental health and they are not making any representation. The police have agreed conditions with the applicant for the subcommittee to consider should the license be granted. Appendix C is a copy of the agreed conditions. Other persons, there have been 2 representations received from local residents. The representations raised concerns in relation to the following licensing objectives: prevention of crime and disorder, public nuisance and public safety. And Appendix B consists of a copy of the valid representations received. All parties involved have been served with the relevant notices and documentation required by paragraph 6 and 7 of the Licensing Act, Hearing Regulations 2005. Paragraphs 8 and 9 of the regulations require that parties notify the licensing authority no later than 5 working days before the hearing of those matters mentioned in paragraph 3.1 above, and a pro forma was sent out with the notices and determination mentioned in paragraph 3.11 above. Legal implications, provisions of the Licensing Act 2003, the Licensing Act 2003 Hearings Regulations 2005, guidance issued under section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, and the Rochester District Council Statement of Licensing Policy, approved by Council for the period of the 31st of January 2016 to the 31st of January 2021, and needs to be considered by members in determining the application. An equality impact assessment has been completed and found to be no impacts, either positive or negative, on protected groups as defined under the Equalities Act 2010. The recommendation, it is proposed that the subcommittee resolves the determining of the application, having considered all representations made at the hearing. The following options are available to the members: to grant the application subject to conditions and are consistent with the operating schedule, modify to such extent as members consider necessary for the promotion of the licensing objectives, and any mandatory conditions must be included. To exclude the scope of the license, any of the licensable activities to which the application relates. 3, to reject the application. Or 4, subject to paragraphs 1 to 3 of the Licensing Act 2003 Hearings Regulation 2005, to adjourn the hearing to a specified date, to arrange for a hearing to be held in specified additional dates where the members consider it necessary for the consideration of any representation or notices made by a party. And that's the conclusion of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Greener. Members of the committee, now got an opportunity to ask Mr. Greener some clarifications of any questions, if you wished. Councillor Mrs. Shaw.
I've got nothing at this moment, Chair, but I might want to come back. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. On the part 3, the operating schedule, obviously the premises licence to start date is shown as the 1st of the 4th 20. Is that going to be altered now?
Yes, that will be following today's hearing and today's decision.
Thank you. And the other question on item F, which is page 12, 0.416, which is recorded music. The item actually says, get there myself. I don't know if it was just a typo. So go back. These recorded music, please give further details here to operate live music strictly between these times requested. Has that just been copied over from item E, which is live music? Should that actually say recorded music?
I believe that is the case, and I will ask Mr. Malossi to just confirm that he does require recorded music to be included within the application consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Shaw. Mr. Greener, on page 4.20J, it does say supply of alcohol. It does say not applicable, and it says not required. A bit confusing on that one, because on the boxes on the premises, off the premises both, it doesn't seem to say anything at all. So I'm just a bit confused on that particular page.
Yes, to provide a little bit of clarity, I did pick up with Mr. Malossi after the original application was submitted, and I provided clarity to the responsible authorities. He did require the sale of alcohol both on and off the premises. In relation to seasonal variations, so for example, did he require any additional sort of hours for Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, Valentine's? He said not applicable. And that again, that follows on with the non-standard times that he will literally just be looking to keep to the hours that are specified in the left-hand column.
Okay, I think we come back to the one you said about the bank holidays. Can we just clarify that? I think it was saying an extra hour. I'm trying to find the page where it was now, on bank holidays.
4.23, Carol, page 19.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, it does actually say on his opening hours, but he hadn't actually stipulated in the times for the actual sale of alcohol. With any of the boxes, he's put NA to any sort of seasonal variation. But I wonder whether Mr. Malossi might want to clarify that himself. Bear in mind he's present with ourselves.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Greener. Councillor Mike Wilkinson, is there any questions that you'd like to ask Steve Greener at all?
Thank you, Chair. Not at this time. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Malossi, can you please present your submissions?
Sorry, can you please elaborate on what you require, please?
Yeah, can you just tell the committee exactly your application for requesting these times, these times?
Yes, that's absolutely fine. Basically, as you know, the Red Door is a well-established venue in Rayleigh High Street. We've been there for 5 years now. The issue we have every year is a big burden on our resources as well as the council's resources of having to request temporary event notices for additional hours, changing basically the licence to be able to do what we need to be doing. We do the same every single year, never have any objections against any temporary event notice we've required. We're trying to streamline things, make things more straightforward from the initial licence that we put in place 5 years ago through obviously being a new venture in this sector. It was very vague in what I required for the business. But as obviously being in this business for a long time now, I am working with other venues within Rayleigh High Street on how applications are done and what licenses are, what's needed on a license for a business to run smoothly and professionally. This is why now I've found the time to put in the a new application to give us the ability to run our business more smoothly rather than having to keep requesting permission to operate on certain dates. It's just very backward what we have now. It's very basic. The one we've submitted now is more advanced. There's more clarity for security for ourselves, for the police when they visit our venue, because even with experts like the police and licensing department, it is quite confusing what we have right now, when we can operate and when we can't. So we want to know black and white, along with all our staff. If we have police visits, license visits, it clearly says what we can do, rather than having to sort of guess, are we allowed to operate on this date or not? Because that is what we've experienced over the years. So by doing this, it does resolve all them problems.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, if you'd like to ask any questions at this moment in time, to Mr. Molisi, Councillor Mr. Shaw, I believe you've got a couple of questions you'd like to ask.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of them relate to the security personnel. At the moment, they're only shown as Friday and Saturday, and I think it's down to the DPS to decide if there's others needed. And one of the conditions that the police put on, or that has been put on, is that nobody is allowed in there after 1 o'clock. How's this going to be operated? Who's going to be, are you going to have people on the door to make sure nobody comes in after those times? And why do you feel that the security is not needed on other nights?
Would you like to answer the question, Mr. Molisi, please?
Yeah, sure, that's absolutely fine. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. First of all, security are on the door right up until close every single weekend without fail. So that is that point covered. The second one is, why do we not have security midweek hours? The reason being for that, that's not a requirement on our license. Secondly, our venue does not require security during those times where we are. The sort of venue we are doesn't, how can I put it politely, it doesn't attract a clientele that causes disruption within our venue. That is just how we operate. The premises, perceives that as you walk in, it just deters trouble, full stop. We've had zero trouble midweek during all the 5 years we've been operating, and it's really only weekends that we require security, and that's not because we have trouble in our venue. We just don't get me wrong, from time to time we do have the odd incident, but it's minor, and that's me being honest with you. Where there's alcohol, there's always trouble. That is the same with any venue, but we have security purely to regulate numbers, to make sure that if there is something there, we've obviously got that presence on the door. And as I say, it is a requirement on our license to have security. Originally, when we applied for this application 5 years ago, I opted not to have security, being naive. But obviously, looking back at that, it makes perfect sense for us to have security on them dates. So all them hours are covered. But midweek, the type of venue we are, family and kids in there, it's a lovely environment. It's just not something we would entertain unless there was going to be trouble caused. Then obviously we'd reevaluate that at a later date, and I know that the police would also bring that to our attention as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, the only thing I would add on that is that we are now looking at extending those hours. We're looking up till 2:30 in the morning.
I totally agree with you on that. I can see where you're coming from. The thing is, as I've said to Stephen Greener when we applied for this license, we would love to be able to operate till 6 o'clock in the morning if that was possible. But unfortunately, Rayleigh is not that town. We are 30, 40, 50 years away from ever having a town that's going to be that busy. And I really wish we did have that in our town where we had that sort of commerce available. But unfortunately, Rayleigh is a very quiet town. And to be honest with you, most evenings at the weekend, most evenings of a midweek, we're closed probably by 10, 11 o'clock, the latest. There is just no clientele in the town at that time. And it's as simple as that. Unfortunately, that is the case. And something does need to be done in our town to sort of put it back on the map and, bring money to our area. So there is no concern with that at all. I hope that answers your question.
May I just
Thank
ask
you.
a question, please? Sorry, Councillor Shaw. I just need clarification, please. How will it be policed on the days that you haven't got any security then? Considering you're saying that you tend to finish at 10 o'clock maybe sometimes in the week and you want to stay open till sort of 2:30. Can you just sort of give us an idea of how the security work on that side, please?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. What I must point out, the whole reason for us having this transparent license is not that we want to operate till 2:30 in the morning every single day of the week. For one, financially, that's not viable for us because we don't have the customers to be able to, even serve in the first place. The whole reason behind this is that where the current license we have at the moment is all the dates that we require are not on there. This makes it possible for special events, dates like Christmas, New Year's Eve, bank holidays, all them sort of things where they change throughout every year is different. That's the only reason why we ask for it. And it causes a lot of admin on both sides when other venues in the high street have what we're trying to apply for now already in place. And they don't have the stress that it causes us when we need to do like a last minute panic for a temporary event notice, for example. So running to them sort of hours is not even going to come to the equation. Security, for example, if we was to have an event take place, which is rare, then we would evaluate it on the numbers that are attending, like we do, for example, on our Friday, Saturdays. Our current condition is only requiring 2 security. But for example, on nights where we know we're going to have more demand, or there's a risk of trouble in the area where we've been warned, we automatically add 1, 2 or 3, even sniffer dogs on our doors to deter. Now, I don't know any other venue within our area that operates like that at all. And that's what the Red Door is renowned for. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Rossi. Can I ask you a couple other questions? Regarding fire regulations, how many people are you allowed to have in your pub at any one time? And how do you clarify that with people coming and going?
Our capacity is, believe it or not, it's around about 250 to 270. We regulate that at about 100, slightly over, just to keep it a comfortable atmosphere inside. The local authority fire department have come and done the risk assessment in our premises. They check everything every year. Obviously, those stats are when we first opened. And if we have any internal changes, then we liaise with them and say, obviously we've had, we've done some building work in there or whatever. Then we contact them and then it gets readjusted.
Another question, I'd like to carry on from that. I noticed in the papers you said that you won't let anybody in after 1 p.m. How are you going to police that? How are you going to support the people, especially at the weekends, I'm thinking, or the Fridays and Saturdays?
Yeah.
Find out people coming in after 1 p.m, especially if they've left one pub and they're coming into yours.
That's fine. Our security, even now, where our license is till 1 o'clock in the morning, our security are employed till 1:30, and that's been AM, and that's been like that since day one for 5 years. So it's just an extra half an hour security required for moving forward if this license is to be granted.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mrs. Shaw, I think you want to ask a couple of questions.
I've got one question for Mr. Lassie. If your people are drinking outside the Red Door, what sort of glasses do they have? Are they plastic or are you using glass?
Our regulations on our license only permit alcohol to be consumed up until 9 o'clock. That ties in with other venues in the high street. Prior to that, they are tempered glass, CE approved glasses. They're not plastic vessels. It's one thing that we specified from day one that we wouldn't want in our venue is plastic, because unfortunately the clientele that we have in our venue would simply not come. They would not drink out of a plastic glass. So this was something we discussed years ago, and it was based on how we operated. And obviously, if there was trouble, then obviously polycarbonate glasses would have to be a requirement. To this date, we haven't had any trouble that raises concern. And from our own risk assessments, plus from obviously on the police side, that has made it a requirement for us to have plastic glasses. We just don't have that sort of behaviour, and fingers crossed we won't have moving forward either.
Thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Mr. Shaw, you want to ask a question, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was a couple of things. One, the music and the dance, whatever, you're saying that goes up, the music will play till 2:30. It's what time will, so that means people will be there till what time will they actually be leaving? If the music's going on till 2:30, that's one thing. And also, I think Mr. Greener, we mentioned it earlier, and we need an answer, was one of the questions is state any seasonal variations performance of dance music. The answer is non-applicable. And non-standard timings where you intend to use the premises for the performance of dance music, non-required. Yet you're asking for bank holidays, Christmas, whatever, an extra hour. Well, surely you would need extensions on these timings for that sort of thing to happen.
I can answer that for you. That's absolutely fine. So first of all, the music and dance. Yes, that will be taking place at those times. Your concern is obviously the noise, and we totally understand that. I totally understand that. Now, what we have in place is quite a strict set of terms that not many other venues have in this town. Obviously, we're all here to make sure that Rayleigh remains a safe place. There's zero disruption, you know, keep the peace that we have within this town. And I'm more than happy to work with concerned parties within this meeting, after this meeting, which would really make a big difference in this town with current procedures that are in place in other venues, which are far more, well, very, you know, does cause problems that you don't want to happen. So first of all, we have noise limiters in place. They are set by our sound engineers, who have also sent the document which shows what they're all set at to environmental. They have approved them. We take noise checks every weekend at the front and at the rear of our premises. We've done that for 5 years. That's when we started. No other venue takes decibel readings at their venue and records them down like we do. Now, the other thing is we have laminated glass on the front of our venue, 7.2 millimeters thick to be exact. That was not a requirement, but that's something we've done that environmental are aware of. That is a noise suppression in itself. Our front door is of mahogany. That's a dense, solid material. It's not made of a softwood such as pine. It's a solid door that greatly reduces noise. On top of that, my company, which is a building company, installed 9,500 bricks in that building. So our venue is a building inside a building. No other venue does that. They stick up wallpaper, brick effect. That's not what we do. We got 9,500 bricks in that venue that line every single wall. On top of that, the ceilings are all soundproof and plasterboarded over and plastered on top, obviously. So that is our third level of soundproofing. there is no noise disruption that comes from our venue in terms of the music. It just is impossible. The third one is the timings in which they're allowed to dance to. Yes, our license, if this is granted, would be at 2 o'clock when alcohol sales stop, and then they have a quiet drink up period till 2:30 in the morning. That calms everyone down before they leave. The seasonal variation one, which you put forward to Stephen, now the reason why we haven't got anything in that seasonal variation is the whole reason for this application in the first place. It's to take out all of those timings that cause problems that could cause us to breach our license, which we do not want to do. And again, take away the administration sides on our side and on the council's side to approve dates that we have every single year, time and time again. They're already approved. What we're asking for now is already been in place for 5 years already. All it's doing is making it official with less paperwork involved. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Councillor, Mr. Shaw, have any other questions you want to ask at the moment?
No, it's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor, Mrs. Shaw, any questions you want to ask? At the
No,
moment?
they've all the questions I wanted to ask have been asked. Thank you.
Okay, just a couple of things I'm still a bit confused about. Other than the Friday and the Saturday evening and the other times, I know you say you finish at maybe 10:30. My concern is about having security on the doors. And the other question I will ask is on the days where you're saying about dancing, etc., music and dance, is that going to operate till 3:30 on public holidays?
Your first question with regards to the security, midweek, as I say, that gets evaluated. If, for example, we was to have a request to have, I don't know, a wake there or some sort of professional function that was a mixture of children, adults, or depending on sort of the event that was going to take place, then that's something that we automatically put out to the person inquiring, is that security will be provided. Now that doesn't come to an expense at us, that gets added onto their quote as such. So it's not us trying to avoid, any expense for anything. If we need security in that place, we will have it. It's as simple as that. And midweek, we have a lovely family environment. It's like requesting for example, a Harvester or another chained establishment to have security. We are not a pub. We are a high-end bar. Our clients don't behave rationally. It just doesn't happen in our venue. It is, I don't know if any of you have been there or not, but obviously I don't want to go on about it too much, but we do not attract trouble in our venue. It's as simple as that. We are fortunate to be that high-end bar, not a pub sort of atmosphere. I believe that was all your questions answered. Forgive me.
And the other one was about the music and dance up till half. I mean,
The music and dance.
Is it going to be?
No, music and dance, we are Friday and Saturday venue for that. Midweek, that again, the only time that would take place is if, for example, it's a bank holiday Monday or Easter Sunday or something like that on a special event. Other than that, if, for example, we was to have a birthday party or something like that, which is rare, then obviously we would have music, but very unlikely to that sort of time.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back again. I'm still concerned about this midweek, people coming in at after 1 o'clock. I'm still trying to find out, kind of work you're going to police that, if you like. And also, there's another thing I want to ask you about is about having a refusal book is maintained. I mean, you're not going to have anybody on the door. How's that going to work as well?
The first one is we will not be staying open to anywhere near them sort of times as a general sort of everyday trading day. There's just no demand for it in our town at all. And one, it's just financially not viable for us. And really, we don't want to be open to that late anyway. The second one with the refusal book, well, paperwork is something I'm very proud of, and the local licensing authority, the police know that as well. We have so much paperwork, policies, procedures, compliance protocol sheets in place Now we have multiple refusal books. We don't just have like a basic one that most venues have. We have quite advanced one. So we have one for our security, that if anything incident takes place within our venue, they fill in that one. They also have their own supplied one because our security is outsourced. They fill in that one as well. Then our staff, ourselves, our great team that work there, they also have their own refusal logbook that they have in there. Now that records down, for example, any refusal logs of underage people that come in. Not something we have to do, but we've been told it's the best thing to do, so we can log that down. So for example, if something was to come back on us, we could say, actually on this date, person of this description was noted down and they were refused, not served. To date, over the 5 years, we haven't had one incident with underage serving or any other incident like that.
Thank you. Councillors, Mr. Shaw and Mrs. Shaw, is there any other questions you'd like to ask at all?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Mr. Greener, is there any questions you'd like to ask at all of the?
Oh, sorry, Chair, could I just ask a question on behalf of the members?
Yes, of course.
And maybe, Chair, you may actually want to ask the question directly, but I think one thing that you wanted clarifying was on the days when there's no one on the door, who is going to police the 1 p.m. late entrance? I think that's something you wanted to clarify, isn't it, Chair?
Thank you.
Did you want me to answer that?
Yes, please, if you would
Yeah,
mind.
no
Yes.
problem. The reason why we have that 1 p.m. Restriction is basically when other venues in the town are open to that time, there's a high chance that patrons are intoxicated at that point. What we don't want to do is then invite them into our venue and increase further drinking to already very intoxicated people, customers. So that's why we have that 1 o'clock, and that works fantastically with us, because what we don't want is other, we don't want drunk people coming in at that time. You know, we're trying to wind things down at that sort of point in time. So that is the reason why there's this whole 1 o'clock thing. How we regulate that is very simple. If we were to be open at that sort of time anyway, midweek, which is very rare, let me make that clear, then it's a very simple job of our staff on shift saying, sorry, we do not serve past 1 o'clock.
Chair, I think the query was in terms of the door, who's going to stop people coming in if there's no one on the door? That's the question, isn't it?
Yes, that would be our staff on shift.
Chair, are you happy with that response?
At the moment, yes. Mr. Greener, did you want to ask the applicant any questions at all? So you were muted, Mr. Green.
Sorry, no, nothing from the licensing team, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Mr. Wilkinson, is there anything you'd like to ask the applicant, please?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I've got a submission of my own, but I would like to ask the applicant one quick question, if that's okay. Could you just explain to the committee what engagement, if any, you've had with the residents above and worked with them with regard to this application, people who live above you?
Yeah, sure. To date, we haven't had, the best of my knowledge, that's something environmental would be able to answer precisely, is that from my knowledge, we haven't had any complaints from tenants in that facility of our building. The reason being is that when the Red Door was built there 5 years ago, there was no tenants there at all. It was just an office block, and our landlords who own this block from the police station right up to Iceland haven't built any dwellings, livable dwellings there for that particular reason. No premises, no dwelling is above our venue or to the side for that reason, because they know that our business operates there.
Sorry, yeah. So my question was not are you aware of any complaints? It's what have you done to engage with the residents who live up there in preparation for this application?
Well, it's very straightforward. If we have any representations from environmental, which we haven't, they would be the first one to bring it to our attention. When it's brought to our attention, then what we do with that is then obviously, because environmental are very strict, if there's a problem, they will make sure that we deal with it. So at the moment, we haven't had anything.
Okay. All right. That's okay. So you haven't done any. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any more questions from members of the committee or any other members here?
Chair, can I come back, please?
can.
It's regarding what Chris Owen said regarding this 1 o'clock. I completely understand that you're not going to have security and the bar staff will stop anyone coming in. How do you know that they're new people coming in if they're just standing out? Yeah, I've got to be concerned that if they come across from the Roebuck or somewhere, how will you know they're not just normal regulars that you've had in before? How will that be policed?
Thank you for bringing that. I was hoping someone would answer that. The reason being is that we're not a busy venue midweek. The majority of our customers, have to be up early the next day to go to work. Like I say, we're not a pub, we're a high-end bar. Our numbers are very minimal during midweek. So as soon as someone enters, they stick out like a sore thumb. Our staff will be immediately able to tell that they are new customers or existing customers, and we will not be open till that time. And if we are going to be open at that sort of time, the high chance is it's on a special day, like, as I say, bank holiday, Easter Sunday, all those sort of dates. And security will be on the door then, because we will not operate without them.
Right, okay, thank you.
Does anybody else want to ask any questions at all? Members or Councillor Mike Wilkinson, do you want to ask any more questions at all?
No, thank you, Chair.
A closing statement. Mr. Greener, do you want to do a closing statement?
Chair, apologies. I do have a submission of my own, which I'd like to read out, but I, on behalf of the local residents, I wasn't sure if that's what you were alluding to when you gave me the opportunity to ask Mr. Malossi questions.
I'm sure that's fine. Chris, is that okay?
Yeah, Chair, the questions from Councillor Wilkinson were fine, and they form part of essentially the applicant's part to speak. So yeah, now the chance to speak now passes over to the interested party, which is in this case Councillor Wilkinson, and then obviously the other parties can then ask him any questions, as has been carried on with the other so far.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, Mr. Councillor Wilkinson, carry on.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Members, I'm attending this meeting today as one of the ward councillors for the ward in which the Red Door is situated. The Red Door is a relatively small establishment which is situated on the High Street, a few doors up from the police station. There are retail units either side and opposite, and above, along that line of shops there are residential flats, some which single parents are in, some with elderly residents in. There's only been 2 objections raised on the online system. However, I have had a number of residents who have contacted me directly as the ward councillor, having put feelers out to try and attract interested representations. And it's those people I'm representing today. I have concerns about the hours which the applicants are suggesting you to consider as appropriate. Historically, licensed premises close their doors by 11 or 11:30. And in actual fact, Mr. Malossi said he usually closes his by about 10:30 to 11. Obviously, with the obvious exception of Friday. Yet this applicant is asking you to permit his business to remain open until the early hours of the morning, 2:30. The applicant has submitted that this is to prevent requesting temporary event notices. Every other licensed premises manages to do this. In addition, this reaffirms that the applicant is seeking essentially what equates to 24/7 licensing hours, which equate to what other premises may require 4 or 5 times a year. What I mean by that is where most licensed premises may require special event notice 4 or 5 times a year for something like New Year's Eve or something like that, they apply for a temporary event notice. And what this application is trying to seek is to have that special exemption every single day of the year. Once granted, if granted, there will be every possibility that the Red Door will be able to remain open until 2:30 every day, even if they don't want to, even if they're saying they don't want to. That is legally the possibility that they will have. If that's not what they intend to do, then why apply for it? I accept Mr. Malossi may consider the times appropriate due to the premises location on the High Street and it being away from the main residential area of the town. However, there are residential units above. The occupants of those units are entitled to rest, peace and quiet, and the ability to sleep at night. I would respectfully suggest that allowing a bar to remain open so late every night of the week, every week of the year, which essentially this application, if granted, will allow them to do, directly below these residents, is going to totally ruin their lives and privacy for those residents concerned. Chairman, my second concern is regarding the possibility of antisocial behaviour and violent disorder. And I share some of the concerns raised by your members this afternoon. The applicant is suggesting the use of door staff on Friday and Saturday, but not every other day of the week, even though the opening hours essentially remain the same. If it does not expect customers to be in the bar until early hours on Saturday and Thursday, such as door staff are not needed, then why ask for these hours in the application? I'm in total favour of supporting local businesses, and I'm very mindful of the difficult times faced by the hospitality industry recently, having only been allowed to open their doors 2 days ago, without any doors. Sorry, I beg your pardon. 2 days ago, but to allow this premises to keep its doors open until the early hours of the morning every day without any door staff for 5 out of the 7 nights is simply a recipe for disaster. Essex Police is situated only 3 or 4 doors away. However, the mere fact that a licensed premises is situated so close to a police station does not permit it to push the boundaries on understanding that if it all goes wrong, it won't take long for the police to respond. I'm also mindful that a large number of conditions have been suggested on the licence extension if it's granted. These are going to involve a huge amount of policing to ensure the licensee adheres to them on behalf of the council and Essex Police. And I'm not convinced, if I'm honest with you, Chairman, that either Rochester District Council or Essex Police have got the resources to effectively police these conditions on a regular basis. And I use the phrase regular basis deliberately, as this is what will be required rather than once a year or something similar. Chairman, in summary, in view of the concerns raised about the inability to properly police the conditions, the strong possibility of disorder at the premises, and moreover, the negative effect this extension will have on the lives of those who live above, plus the clear lack of need for this extension, an admission from the applicant itself, he used the words very rare repeatedly, I urge you all please to dismiss this application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Greener, did you want to do your closing statement, please?
Chair,
Sorry.
did you want to ask just the other parties if they had any questions for Mr. Wilkinson, for Councillor Wilkinson at all?
Can do. Councillor Shaw, Mrs. Shaw, did you want to ask Councillor Wilkinson any questions?
No, I haven't. No questions. Thank you very much.
Councillor Mr. Shaw at all?
No, thank you, Chair.
And Mr. Melissa, do you want to ask Councillor Wilkinson any questions at all on his statement?
Yes, I would love to be able to respond. It's really refreshing, and I don't mean this in a patronising way at all, to have a councillor that generally is keen to make sure this town, you know, is a good town that operates professionally, zero disruption. It's very rare to come across people that like myself that want them sort of that sort of environment maintained. I would like to be able to meet up at some point and discuss other issues in this town that would actually make a big difference. If we can arrange something after, that would be fantastic. But in response to your questions that you put forward, your statement, they're not things that I'm not going to respond to because I'm too keen for this application to get passed. I actually want to highlight and elaborate on what you've put forward to me because it's what I want to do is make sure after this meeting, whatever way, whatever decision is made, is that it's very clear that the business I operate and any other business that I own and operate is run very professionally. And that is what I pride myself on. Now, the residents above, if they have a problem, we would have had environmental knocking on our door a long time ago and bringing this to our attention. We haven't had that at all. That hasn't happened. So I don't know where these are coming from, if they are actually in the vicinity or they are you know, down the road, which could be any pub causing that sort of disruption or bar, and how we're going to maintain our procedures and all that. Well, we maintain them very well. We've demonstrated that for 5 years. And yes, you are right in saying that, you know, we could abuse these hours till 2:30 in the morning. We say we don't need them now, and yet tomorrow, if this was granted, we could go ahead and do that. But like you said, we have many restrictions on our license, and if we breach those, that will cost our business. So it's not in our interest to say one thing and do another, because we've got a very popular, famous establishment there that brings a lot of joy to a lot of local residents and families. And we demonstrate, put it like this, the other venues in our town, they use us as an example. Whatever we do, they do. Whatever we do first, they end up doing. If we bring out a new idea or something that comes across very professional or something like that, you can guarantee within 24 hours, they are doing it. In effect, we do inspire other venues. Now, I don't mean to come across big-headed like that, but we work very hard to make sure that we are spot on every single time. And we've demonstrated that over 5 years with the minimal trouble that we've had in our place, the minimal dealings that we've had with environmental, with our venue. We just don't have trouble at our venue. Yes, we do from time to time, minor things, but we don't have people with axes trying to knock down front doors of venues. We don't have women with metal bars in their hands like other pubs do. We just don't entertain that sort of trouble. And we risk no additional crime and disorder to this town at all. If anything, we reduce it by having the type of procedures that we have in place. But if there's general concerns, you know, in this town, like you're saying, that our venue may cause, well, I can be honest with you, there's already venues in this town that create that, and nothing's been done to date. And with this key issue of not having security on our door, well, a recent license application has been recently submitted, yes, and approved, and obviously is in force right now, where it is purely a drinking establishment, and yet no security is required on their license. Yet every other venue in our town has to have security. And it's a financial cost that a lot of us don't want to have, but being a professional business, we realise that we need that, and we wouldn't dream of operating without security. How has this new application gone through on another venue in Rayleigh? No security. So if it's a genuine concern where trouble doesn't want, you know, you don't want trouble in this town, I would really focus on those venues. And that is where I can help you. I can work with you, and I can help you reduce crime and disorder, and also at the same time, make sure that licenses are transparent. So whether we're big, small, or medium-sized businesses, we all have exactly the same regulations on our restrictions on our licenses, and we have the same policing approach to it. So it's all uniform.
Mr. Bolissi, sorry, this sounds more like a closing statement rather than an answer to
I apologise, but as I say,
sorry.
I take pride in our town, hence why I put a beautiful bar here. And I want to, you know, it's fantastic to hear someone that wants to continue that. So sorry for going on, but I do get that. I'm very proud of that.
No, that's fine. Councillor Wilkinson, is there anything else you wanted to say at all?
Chair, I'll just come back very briefly, if I may. Then I'll finish and just direct to Mr. Molossi. Thank you for what you've said. With regards to the complaints, it's not unusual, and in fact, this has happened to me a couple of times before, where residents have come to me directly. It's a sort of relationship that we as councillors, and I'm sure I speak for all members that are sitting looking at me right now, that we do with our residents, that we create relationships where they come to us. That's what our job of ward councillor is. And the fact that nobody's been to environmental health directly is not indicative of a lack of an issue. It just means to say that they would rather speak to their ward councillor than go straight to the council, which is what's happened in this case. And I have no doubt about, and I don't wish to disrespect your professionalism or anything at all. But and obviously, you know, and I've got no evidence to disprove anything you've said. But what I would remind members, of course, is that there's nobody here to dispute it and to say that actually Mr. Velocity is not saying, you know, he's not the best premises in you know, in the town. So, but no, I have nothing further to say on this, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Greener, do you want to do your closing statement at all, please?
No, there's no closing statement from the licensing team. Thank you.
Mr. Melissy, do you want to do anything else with your closing statement? Seeing that you've already, seems like you've already done one, but is there anything else that you'd like to add at all?
Sorry. No, there isn't at all. No.
Okay. I think that's it. I think the committee will now adjourn, having listened to all the information today by councillors and other parties.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, sorry.
Just to confirm, does Councillor Wilkinson have a closing speech, as it were?
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you, Chair. No, I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, so the committee will now adjourn to consider the case. We will return in approximately an hour to announce the decision. This will also be sent to you in writing. You don't have to wait, but obviously you're welcome to do so. So in the meantime, we will leave this meeting and return on the next live stream.
Chair, can I just from a practical point of view, perhaps Sonia could answer this. Are we all going to leave the meeting, then re-log in on the same details again?
Yes.
We are.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, the details are different as sent out. There are separate joining instructions for a separate session. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Wilkinson. Okay, that's fine. So we will look forward to seeing you in about an hour's time, members. Thank you.